Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Strategies for Growing Your Services Business During Difficult Times. Coming up on your screen now is our Safe Harbour statement. Please take a moment to read this statement. The webinar that we're about to go into is not part of Oracle Strategic Direction. It is purely for the purposes of this webinar. Joining us on our webinar today, we have first up Toukan Chatterjee. Over to you, Toukan.
Thank you, Camilla. Hi, everybody. My name is Toukan Chatterjee. Just to introduce myself briefly, I'm a professional services automation software specialist at Oracle NetSuite. I've been in the professional services business for approaching 30-odd years, both on the supply side, in other words, working for services organizations as a director of consulting, and also on the software side, working with numerous software vendors and positioning and implementing PSA software for our customers. Today, I'm delighted to have with me in the presentation my colleague, Ron Brew. Ron, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thank you, Toukan, and hello, everyone. My name is Ron Brew. I am the president and owner of TopStep Consulting. TopStep is a global service organization focused on PSA solutions for professional service organizations. We are a NetSuite partner as well as a NetSuite customer. I've been in the professional service industry for over 30 years, and we're excited today to talk to you about some of the challenges we find today.
Thank you, Ron. So let's have a look at what we're going to be talking about today and the kind of topics we're going to be covering. The background for the seminar is really that services organizations are caught up today in a tornado of change due to the global pandemic, amplifying the everyday pressures on their business. Their customers are cutting the investment and attention earmarked for new projects and instead prioritizing tuning their own operations to be pandemic resistant. Now, while some industries are booming in the current time, for example, e-tailers, medical diagnostics, genomics, and so on, some are not. So the services organizations which serve these various sectors are also impacted and are themselves having to fine-tune their business operations and priorities. In this webinar, we'll be sharing some strategies which services organizations could be adopting right now to help them navigate the current crisis and come out of this period thriving and poised for the upturn. And the strategies will be the ones that Ron will take you through after this initial intro and some of the strategies he's been employing in his business today. So in order to begin, let's have a look at some of the challenges faced by services organizations generally. The challenge, I would always suggest, has always been about how best to balance supply with demand and make a profit. Now, with respect to demand, the challenge is to keep on generating new opportunities, beating your competitors while preserving and even growing margin. Today's pandemic times has made this even more difficult in that in an environment where customers are cutting new spend and initiatives, how can you continue to generate new opportunities to drive the pipeline? A recent survey by the Technology Services Industry Association, or TSIA, of their global membership found that 85% of their membership were projecting a bookings decline, and 56% were investing in new remote capabilities. Also, almost 80% were changing their offers and pricing, and Ron will talk about this a little bit later. With respect to supply, the challenge has always been about recruiting, training, and deploying the right skilled individuals onto the right customer projects at the right cost base, and keeping them busy or utilized enough so that each individual generates a net profit. As well as the need, of course, to motivate, grow, and retain these individuals. This challenge has been amplified by the pandemic as the opportunity to staff on-location projects has been cut dramatically as a result of no-contact lockdown measures imposed in most countries, thereby driving the need to shift to a remote delivery model. The TSIA survey found that while 69% of their membership are cutting OPEX spend, only a quarter are cutting headcount, which illustrates how importantly they value the skills and resources of the people they have on board. Having just talked about the demand and supply side challenges faced by services organizations, I'd like to add a third category here called managing the business. I'm sure you know what this means. You're all no doubt familiar with what metrics, KPIs, reports, and so on you use today, or maybe you'd like to use today to manage your business before the pandemic. The question we pose here is, what are the ideal metrics and KPIs you should be tracking as we're now in the teeth of the pandemic and looking to spring out of it? This should be a concern for all businesses, especially international ones. So those were just some of the challenges we know you're facing today and we're very sympathetic with. But what to do about them? Well, you may recall in the earlier build-up to this session that we communicated out to you the Service Performance Insight 2020 Professional Services Maturity Benchmark. This is an annual report based on SPI researchers surveying the huge membership on an annual basis. And as part of the report, SPI identified what they call the best of the best professional services organizations in the world, meaning those service organizations which have excelled according to a predefined set of key business metrics. Well, I'm proud and delighted to have with us the only services team which have been identified as being an SPI best of the best company for not just 1 year, but for 10 years running, and that's TopStep Consulting. And I'd like to hand over to their CEO, Ron, to share some tips that he's been employing within his organization. Ron, over to you to take us through how you handle it initially the demand side challenges.
Thank you, Tukan. As the CEO of a consulting firm, this decline in the economy has impacted us directly, just like all of you. It is apparent that this will not be a short-term economic downfall and has the potential to have major impact on all services businesses. As this started to affect us, I knew we needed to start to take action and strategize around what could we do to help us survive in this new economy. We deployed 5 tactics that we feel will help us carve out success in an otherwise unpredictable economy. And I'd like to share those tactics with you. Firstly, we looked at our available resource capabilities and we designed an offering that we could deliver remotely that had benefits to a wide audience at a low cost. We needed to take advantage of our niche and our reputation in the industry. We knew in this economy, a low-cost offering with minimal commitment could open the door for bringing in new customers. We also focused on industries that were not as affected as others. Bringing in new customers in a time like this injects confidence in our staff and keeps everyone busy. Secondly, we had to rethink our pricing strategy. While profitability is key to any successful business, during these times, we were looking at lower cost, lower price offerings to simply expand our client base and keep our resources utilized. We put some packages for some remote offerings with a small volume of hours that we would have never offered in the past. We also offered other discounts that we normally wouldn't have offered to offset budget objections where feasible. My prioritization was maximizing utilization and keeping people busy over maximizing profitability. We also looked at our past customers and started to attack the phase 2 projects that may have never occurred, either due to our unavailability at the time or the customer's unavailability at the time. And we started reaching out to all our existing customer bases and basically said, remember when we talked about doing this? Or remember when we talked about doing that? Is this now a good time to tackle those back burner projects? And we've had some success here. We've had some projects, some smaller projects kick off to pick up and move forward some of those back burner efforts. And we've seen that work pretty well. You have to take advantage of all of your options. Even by reducing pricing and developing low-cost services, budgets are still tight and some customers can't spend due to cash flow concerns. As a partner with Oracle, we are working to take advantage of some of the alternative funding options to further alleviate budgetary concerns. Things like flexible subscription costs, payment deferrals, bundling services and licensing, or payment lease options. These are a few options that we're looking to leverage to help fuel new sales. And this has been a big benefit to a lot of companies that have taken advantage of the offerings by Oracle, and we've been able to benefit from those as well. Lastly, you really need to take a really look at your pipeline. What is real? How many are really at risk? What is the impact to your resource strategy? Rely on your PSA for your supply versus demand reports to determine the gaps and take actions. We believe these 5 sales tactics will help TopStep carve out success in an otherwise unpredictable economy. Tukan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Ron. That was very interesting. In terms of the supply side, let's turn our attention to that. And we went through some of the challenges that you guys in the services world are having on the supply side in the current times. Now, let's look at some of the things you could be doing to address your supply side challenges right now. These are about handling the lack of on-site projects, managing billable utilization so the company remains profitable, making sure you're tracking non-billable time, making the best use of your staff, and not simply furloughing them or letting them go. Generally, all the things you could be doing right now to prepare for the upturn when it comes. Ron, what are some of the tactics you employed in your business to handle the supply side challenges?
So some of the challenges we've seen, landscape has been quickly changing beyond our control. On-site work, where we typically would work with our customers side by side, has been converted to remote work. We have to literally look at our resource planning more frequently, where we would go weekly reviews and we're actually reviewing daily. How do we retain our top talent, right? And if you're doing all of this analysis in spreadsheets versus a PSA tool, you're struggling, I suspect. So how do we get through this set of challenges? How can we treat the current situation as an opportunity? Well, first off, you have to have a unified platform for pulling all of your supply data together. It might, more than now, it might be more important to evaluate your current systems and your processes and make improvements. This is the time to start to look internally. And if you need to put some new systems in place, this is when you would need to take action. Take stock of your current resources. Make sure you understand their availability, their skill sets, their certifications. Where do they want to grow? And basically facilitate better project staffing options. Before I was CEO of TopStep, I ran a consulting firm as COO, and we had a bunch of disparate systems, time systems, spreadsheets, and no integrations. We had no visibility into what was happening with our staff. We couldn't make changes quickly because we didn't have that availability of data. Our project profitability was down and our customer satisfaction wasn't where it should be. We eventually evolved. We put PSA in place. We integrated our systems. We became much more responsive, much more proactive. We were making decisions based on data, not based on what we thought was going on. On the next slides, we'll cover a few types of functionality that we find service organizations are looking for and benefiting from as it relates to resource management. Being able to catalog your skills, qualifications, understand your resource goals is really important as you start to navigate what are the offerings we want to pull together, how do we balance demand, what does our supply really look like. You're now staffing projects data-driven. Sure, you're assigning the right people to the right project at the right time is a really critical piece. Being able to look forward, not just backwards, right? What is coming up? What work is coming into future weeks, months? Whether you're doing a top-down or a bottom-up forecasting model, that could change based on the culture of your organization. But in either way, you need to be looking forward and with some confidence that your forward-looking reporting is accurate for both forward utilization and forward revenue. As we mentioned, utilization, this is probably the most critical metric for a service organization. And a lot of organizations struggle with an accurate utilization. But if you have the right system that gives you that real-time utilization reporting, that is one of the most powerful parts of PSO, and allows you to make changes quickly, allows you to move the pieces around, rechange project plans, plan for your pre-sales engagements with more confidence. As business is slowing down, resources are be on the bench more than you would like. It was critical to me not to make any knee-jerk headcount decisions. We instead focused on our sales strategy to support our resource model. Of course, that's easier said than done. There's always a challenge when you're trying to marry supply and demand. And if you don't have a system to help you, then it's almost nearly impossible. This is where the benefit of implementing a unified platform, a PSA tool, which can tie together all these components. Well, customers really care about data, and we care about data, and having reports and dashboards and real-time information to make these decisions is critical. We had a remote culture at TopStep, but we wouldn't be able to survive and thrive without a system supporting that remote culture, and us being able to, report on all the metrics and the real-time data that we need to be able to run our business. Now, all businesses are being forced into that remote culture. I wonder if this will stick. Is this the new normal? Well, who knows, but it's important either way to make sure that you have a system to help you manage that business. Toukan, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Ron. One of the things I wanted to just chip in here is that many of you in the services world will be experiencing decreased utilization levels right now, and maybe more people on the bench. And I wanted to share with you an example of what could be done to maximize the benefit to the business of perhaps an increased bench time. And the way I wanted to do that is to share with you an example customer implementation that we did together. The company is called Allega Services. They're based in the UK. They provide specialized IT development and delivery services to the financial services sector, mostly. In addition, Allega also offers competencies in data strategy, integration, digital implementation, and project management. When we engaged with them, they were doing everything in Excel, and also a timesheet system called Tempora was in use at the time. But they really wanted to standardize, they wanted to professionalize with a single source of the truth system across the company. They wanted to create a solid base poised for growth, and also to help them onboard quickly 40 to 50 contractors onto the permanent roster, and also pre-handle key management changes that were upcoming. We engaged Ron and his company, TopStep, into the conversation early so we could together understand the challenges and also propose solutions to Allega. And from that point, Ron, I think I'll hand back to you to tell us how you took the project forward.
Yeah, so we were able to get Allega up and running during a pandemic within 40 working days, which we're very proud of. We have a very happy, satisfied customer with both our services and the software selection. The biggest thing for Allega that we have really focused on for them is the manual parts of their business, especially around month-end close and their invoicing process. And so that was extremely painful for them to pull together all the data they needed from spreadsheets and other systems and be able to then manufacture invoicing to their customers. It was long, lots of time, and it was full of errors. And there was a lack of confidence across the org. So it really made their month-end stressful. So these are really the main focuses that we put in. So if we could fix that, then everything else would, come along as well. And we were able to do that and attack that. We have a very happy customer. They're able to close their month in a much shorter period with confidence, pull all their data together. So an example of taking the time today and really looking at those internal systems and either and how can you improve what you have today? I think Aliga is a great example.
Yeah, thanks, Ron. Particularly impressive how you got them live in 40 days in the teeth of all the COVID restrictions, lockdown, and so on. I'm sure we all remember queuing in this country for supplies and also being allowed out only 1 hour a day for exercise. So very impressive that.
Yeah.
Let's turn our attention now in the final part of this webinar to managing the business, by which we mean, of course, how do we revisit the metrics, the key performance indicators and reports that we normally use to steer our ship to be better focused on managing the business out of the pandemic. Would you mind, Ron, taking us through some of the metrics and reports you employed both before and during the pandemic to help manage your business? Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tukan. So the metrics you see in this slide are just a small sample of what you should be able to scan through and be able to identify, and those that will be pertinent to you. The other beauty of OpenAir PSA is all these metrics are available to monitor via graphical representation or textual reports or dashboards, and also used to trigger proactively alerts as needed. You might, for example, find it useful to send an alert on Friday at 4 o'clock with a list of your consultants who have yet to submit their timesheets or expenses, something that many ops managers still struggle with today. So we've predefined, and templatized our metrics and reports built into the PSA, which means instead of struggling on day one of going live with a blank screen that looks like this, instead, you start with a rich application already populated with data and metrics, which we've configured for you, that allows you to steer your business that looks like this. Here you have your own definable home screen, key dashboards, message boards, and easy one-click access to all those important reports that you require to run your business. Are you managing your projects? How are you tracking the state of your projects? You be proactive. You know, I get a report every Monday of all my projects and the state of my projects, and then I can then start to dig down into the ones that might be at risk or need attention, and use my reports and my stoplights and that indicators to really be proactive in understanding what challenges the project managers or the customers are having, and get in front of potentially, you know, customer satisfaction issues. In addition to this demand and supply, cash is king during economic upheaval. You know, managing your accounts receivable, while OpenAir is not a financial system, we do, you know, it does very well manage your invoicing process, as well as allow you to manage your collections. So, you know, do you have clear line of sight as to what invoices have been paid and which customers are overdue on their payment? So being proactive there and being able to monitor that within the system real time with one click of a button is really important. Tukan, I'll send this back to you.
Thanks very much, Ron. Hopefully you've all found it very valuable use of your time to listen to Ron, especially, and myself speaking about how you can identify, metric, and track the various challenges in front of you, whether they're demand side, whether they're supply side, or whether they're to help you manage the business appropriately. In closing, Ron, I'd like to ask you to summarize what you would suggest the audience go back to work to do right now, having left this webinar. What would you say?
Sure. You should feel satisfaction that you do have levers to pull. You have actions you can take. Whatever PSA you use today, make sure you're leaning on it to get maximum value. And if you're not, make sure you take actions there. But you need to be thinking about optimizing your resource management strategies. Are there any gaps there? You know, really review your sales strategy. Are there you know, in this strange time we're in, are there sales strategies that you would maybe never consider, but now may need to consider to keep the business rolling and keep business coming in so your resources stay available? Do you have real-time accurate demand versus supply reporting at your fingertips? And you trust that real-time data. And so making sure your PSA system is providing you those data-driven decision-making metrics that you need to run your business.
Very good. And the last recommended action, if I may, I would like to suggest that you look out for an invitation from Oracle NetSuite to participate in a post-event one-to-one call where we will prepare for you a personalized PSA value calculation. This will give you insight into the total cost of ownership and the business benefits available to your business from your investment in a PSA software implementation, and also show you the return on that investment as well. Right, so that concludes the webinar as such. I've had one question come in from the audience during the session, and that is, I'm going to turn this one over to you, Ron. The question is about integrations. This author of the question is asking about how PSA software can integrate into specifically their CRM system, but presumably other systems as well matter as well. So let me turn that over to you. What would you say there?
Yeah, absolutely. CRM is a critical system for managing, upcoming pipeline. And what we do in our business, and we help our customers do the same, is really make sure that your CRM is connected to your PSA, so that as you're bringing in, very larger opportunities or opportunities at a high probability, you bring those into your to your PSA, so you can start to plan early. And really, it helps you with that demand and supply and getting that full view of demand and supply, and not just your backlog view. So, but CRM is only one part of it. There's a lot of systems out there that customers are using that are best of breed, and making sure your PSA can integrate with the financial systems. NetSuite obviously is a core system with OpenAir, but there's other financial systems out there that OpenAir PSA can connect to, as well as HR systems for syncing employee information, and really trying to minimize double entry where you can. So integrations are a key part of the landscape as you evaluate where you are and where you can improve.
That's great. Thank you, Ron. So to conclude, I'd like to thank the audience, for everyone for joining us today. I'd especially like to thank Ron for his insight and for sharing the sort of things you're doing in your business, and also the customer implementation case study with Allega Services. And for that, at this point, I'll turn you over to Camilla to close.
Thank you, Toucan and Ron, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. If you do think of any additional questions, please do send an email or pick up the phone, and we'll be happy to answer you directly. This webinar will be made available on demand, and we will send that round to you all shortly. On behalf of Toucan, Ron and myself, thank you for your time.